Whew, all right, podheads, today we have a monster. This is the BGX-CX6-8 from Soundqubed. This is a horn-loaded coaxial speaker, neo motor for both the horn and the mid. Both of these things can be controlled separately. Please do. You have separate input for the tweeter as well as a separate input for the mid-range. Coming in at $1,000 for a pair of these and 300 watts RMS. This thing is crazy. Let's take a look at the data. So in order to limit the low-end distortion of this speaker, I did set a high-pass crossover of 107 hertz. It plays down to, I'd say, 150 hertz all the way up to the moon, I guess. The frequency response for this thing overall, it's fairly linear but not very flat. If we give it a little bit of smoothing, you can see that a little bit better. Yeah, there's a couple little peaks, but overall it's linear. It's crazy. This speaker requires 30 watts in order to get to 110 decibels. At 110 decibels, distortion stays about 5% for the majority of the frequency range. Keep in mind, I did not test the distortion of the tweeter because, again, tweeters don't play well with sine sweeps. Giving it 100 watts distortion does rise up to 10% at the lower frequencies. However, this speaker is recommended using a high-pass crossover of 160 hertz. And that's probably about right. So set the high-pass crossover at 160 hertz and everything will stay under 10%. Giving it 150 watts distortion does creep up a little bit more, closer to the 20% mark at the lower frequencies, but at the higher frequencies it stays very well maintained. I'd say under 5%. This speaker is rated for 300 watts RMS. Would I give the mid-range 300 watts? Yeah, you could give the mid-range 300 watts, but you're going to have to set the high-pass crossover really, really high in order to get rid of that low-end distortion, probably around 300 hertz or so, but you know, this speaker, horn-loaded tweeter, or horn-loaded mid, is going to be for your motorcycles, your boats, anything like that. And you're going to want to cross it over higher anyway because you're not going to hear the lows with the motor and the wind and all that stuff. Anyway, so the BGX-CX6 from Soundqubed. This thing is really cool. If you got a motorcycle or a boat or anything like that, I would definitely recommend throwing these things on it. At $1,000 for a pair of them, yeah, you're going to pay extra money for it, but overall, I think distortion-wise and frequency range-wise, this thing's it's really cool. Whoosh.